Welcome to Milton and King's On the Wall podcast, where we engage in conversations with artists, designers, and more. Today we speak with Katie O'Shea, an artist and surface pattern designer from Northern California. We hope you enjoy this conversation. If you do, please subscribe and consider leaving us a rating and review. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for coming on with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. Thanks for reaching out.
So you're calling in from San Fran, is that right?
Yeah, just north of San Francisco in Marin County.
Okay. Yeah, I think I read that you're in Fairfax.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's just over across the Golden Gate Bridge, just north of there, right?
Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with this area?
Somewhat. I've been to San Francisco several times and driven up past to Santa Rosa and been to Sacramento and stuff. So
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Have you been there your whole life, pretty much?
Pretty much, yeah. I grew up here in Marin County in Larkspur in Corte Madera, but then I went to high school in San Francisco.
Okay.
And then I've moved around a bunch since then. So I'm sort of like a big circle coming back here.
You moved around a bunch.
Yeah, after high school, I went to school in Rhode Island at Rhode Island School of Design.
Oh, wow. Did you go out there for school?
Yeah, just for school.
Ah.
And then I moved back to the East Bay, and then we moved to Colorado for a while. And after Colorado, we ended up coming back to Marin County because that just felt like home to me.
So you said East Bay. Where's that?
Oh, that's east of San Francisco. So
Oakland.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Oakland, yeah.
Gotcha. But what brought you to Colorado of all places?
Well, my husband's a contractor, so he got a job in Aspen, and we thought it sounded like a great place to bring two kids and try it out for a year. But a year turned into 3 years, and then we ended up coming back again.
So you were at Aspen.
Yeah,
that's known pretty well for being a very fancy place to live and lots of skiing and.
Yep.
How was it living there? What was your experience there?
Oh, it's a magical place. Yeah, I mean, living there year round is different than just visiting for a week or two. And it's actually a pretty small community of really nice people. And yeah, it was hard to leave after 3 years. But it's not very affordable either. So you kind of have to make some sacrifices if you're going to live there and work there. So
you were reluctant to leave?
A little bit. I mean, I still really miss the West Coast and my family here, but there was just so many aspects of raising children there that was really nice, and we did miss it once we left. So
did you get into any skiing or anything like that? Do you know how to ski?
Oh yeah. I mean, you pretty much have to ski if you live there. So the whole family skied. And everyone we knew there they were big skiers. So it's just part of the culture of living there.
Yeah. I've never been snow skiing, and
never been?
I've never been snow skiing, and I had a friend in high school who went snowboarding, and he cracked his tailbone. And then ever since I saw the pain that he had gone through, I've been sort of terrified to try anything like that.
Yeah. Well, you can always start on the bunny slopes, and I don't think you'll do too much damage to your tailbone. But
is that where adults get laughed at?
Yeah, pretty much. But who cares?
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I've always thought Colorado. I've been to Colorado, like Denver, and driven through it several times, and I always say it's something everyone should do is at least just drive through, because the majesty of the mountains there and is just unlike anywhere else I've been.
Totally.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
But eventually you found your way back to the West Coast.
Yeah, it's just a little more manageable. And we're so far away from, my family, and my husband's family is in the East Coast. So it just made sense to be back, where we knew our family was close by.
Oh wait, so your family's on the East
Oh, sorry. No, my husband's family is in Vermont, and
Oh,
then my
okay.
family's on the West Coast. So
How did you guys meet?
we met in Oakland right after the Oakland fires. He came out here for to do some construction. So
Oh,
yeah,
interesting how that all works.
yeah, it's interesting.
And you have two boys.
I have two boys. Yep, they're grown up now, but yep, they're
Like up and out of the house grown up?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Oh,
one's a soccer player.
no
Uh,
kidding.
yeah, for San Jose State University.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and the other one's also in construction. So we have a lot of builders in our family.
Well, that comes in handy, I suppose,
I guess so.
when you need
we've
something done.
Yeah, well, we've done a lot of buying property and then remodeling it, or moving into it, remodeling it, and then moving out. So we've done a lot of moving, which can get tiring, but we've also learned a lot along the way.
Yeah. Do you get involved in any of the renovations or you just,
Yeah,
oh, you do?
yeah. I'm pretty much the person that picks all the finishes for the inside of the house, and
Oh,
we just finished our final house. I don't want to move anymore, and so it was fun because I got to pick all the fixtures and materials and know that we were actually going to stay in this house and I could live with it for a while.
so you're now in your, what they call your forever home.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And I do plan on putting some wallpaper up, so that's exciting.
Of your own design?
Yeah.
Which design are you going to choose?
I don't know yet. That's the hard part because then you have to look at it for a long time. And
Yeah.
yeah, for me, I constantly am ready to move on to the next thing. So I'm really going to have to think carefully about which wallpaper I'm going to choose.
Yeah. So you like change.
I like change, yeah, for sure. Well, when it comes to design, I definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in my life, I like to just settle down as well, like most people do.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, well, that's cool. So, was a, with your son being a soccer player, is it a sporty family? Because it's sometimes you find that families that are more artsy are less sporty, and families that are more sporty are less artsy. But it seems like you
Uh-huh.
might have a nice mixture of both.
Yeah, I would say overall, my family, like my extended family, are a lot of them are artists.
Mm-hmm.
And my son being a athlete who, he aspires to be a professional athlete, that's more unusual in my family, I would say.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I would say that most of us are athletic. It's just we haven't taken it to the level that he's at this point.
Yeah. Who does he want to play for?
Oh, I think he would be happy just playing at any professional level at this point.
Oh, okay. So he doesn't have a team that he's like, oh, I want to.
Oh, I'm sure he does, but I wouldn't be able to say right now because I would probably get it wrong.
Do you pay
Yeah,
close attention because he is a soccer player at all to
yeah,
that
yeah.
world?
Yeah, we watch a lot of soccer as a family. We don't really watch any other sports other than soccer. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah,
So
it's pretty
you
cool.
guys were watching the World Cup then
Oh, for sure.
and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And there's going to be another World Cup coming up on the West Coast, all along, the West Coast. So that's pretty exciting.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. It's going to be LA and I think San Jose. And I'm not sure how far up the West Coast it's going, but
Is that a professional thing or like a collegiate thing?
or yeah, it'll be the World Cup is coming up
Oh, okay.
on the West. I just can't remember which year. I think it's 2024, but
Oh,
I'd have
gotcha.
to look it up.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So the World Cup. I didn't realize it was
Hmm.
being played out here. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, and then, the Olympics aren't far off from that.
Yeah. Where's that being held?
Well, I know that, um, I think the one that's happening in LA I think it's 2028,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, who
I
knows?
could be wrong.
We'll see who's playing then.
Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I think it's Los Angeles Olympics 2028. And
Right.
last time they were here was 1984. And I remember
Yeah.
that because I saw the little guy run across the street with a torch.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And so let's see, where are we at here? So I was just going through. I looked a little bit up on your website and your socials and stuff. Before I like, dive into your actual wallpaper designs, which I do want to talk about a little bit because they're some of my favorites actually.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
but how did you get your start into, because you said you went to Rhode Island and you were going for art school, so this must have been something that you from a young age were already getting into. Is that right?
Pretty much. I mean, it's funny because now that you bring up that athletic thing, I was playing a lot of sports in high school, and but I wasn't really focused on my studies. So when it came time to apply for colleges, my college counselor was like, "All right, besides volleyball, what are you good at?"
Ah.
And so at the time, I was taking printmaking and painting. I went to a small high school, so it was actually really helpful in terms of getting my portfolio together. And they encouraged me to apply for art school, so
Huh.
that's what I did. And RISD happens to be a really good art school, so once I got in, it was not really a question of whether I was going to go or not.
So going to art school like that, I mean, what it's you said it was an art high school or was it this college?
Um, no, so the high school was very art oriented.
Uh-huh.
It was small
Yep.
and private, and so I had, really good teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And then the college I went to is an art
Oh, an art
only
college.
college. Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah. We had to pick our major our freshman year, so I picked graphic design.
Oh, nice. And so, obviously, you you had an aptitude for art back in high school. Um, was
Yeah.
it something that had started prior to high school, even, or you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my mom's a artist, and my dad eventually became an artist, so there's just a lot of art making around in my family, and it was just sort of a natural fit.
Were other parents? Are your parents like artists professionally, or just in terms of hobbies and fun and that kind of thing?
Well, I think they both, yeah, I would say they're both professional artists. It's taken a long time, but my mom's a painter, and
Oh,
then she does small prints, and my dad's a printmaker.
okay.
So yeah, they both have shows, and they're pretty much full time artists.
Oh, nice. And I'm assuming that perhaps they were able to teach you. Were you going to them to learn, or was it just something that you, by osmosis, you just sort of started doing because you were in that environment?
Yeah, I would say it's more osmosis. It wasn't like a hands on teaching, except maybe from my mom early on, but I kind of went off in my own direction. When I told my dad I wanted to go to art school, he said, "Well, think about, getting a job when you graduate, so don't pick a major that is going to be difficult to find a job
Mm-hmm.
with." So I didn't pick painting. And I think some people would have like rather that I pick painting, but I felt like graphic design was going to be more practical.
Yeah. And did you find that it was practical coming out of college?
Yeah, I would say so. But of course, right out of college, I ended up working on a sailboat and sailing around half the world. So
Oh, no way.
yeah, so I didn't end up doing graphic design right away, but eventually I did.
What's the sailboat story? What's that all about?
Well, so Rhode Island or RISD is very close to Newport, Rhode Island, and Newport happens to be a big sailing town. And my best friend was living there, and she invited me to stay with her. So I needed a summer job, so I got a job on a sailboat,
Wow.
taking people out, and then through that, I got onto a larger yacht that went to like St. Bart's and St. Martin, and then over to Europe.
Oh, how cool. So how old were you
Yeah,
when that? So this was right out of college.
right out of college. So yeah, so I wasn't like lining up the perfect job, I just pretty much hopped on a boat and started doing something totally different.
Yeah, but how neat. I mean,
Yeah,
and like the perfect time, I guess, too, right? Because you're not I imagine you didn't have many you know, responsibilities at the time. You could just, you know, you didn't have any job,
exactly.
you know, career to
Yeah.
attend to just yet. You were
Yep.
just able to enjoy yourself and take off for a little bit.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
where did you so that brought you to Europe, huh?
Yeah. We went to, gosh, Palma de Mallorca first, and then we were in Portofino and um, all these just beautiful places that, getting to just by boat was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
have any time to explore around those areas, or were you just working the whole time?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was fun. It was a privately owned yacht, so the owners would just ask us to have it in a certain place at a certain time. But besides that, we would maintain the boat, but also we had plenty of time to explore and have fun and meet other people on yachts. And it was just a very interesting, different world
And
on
it's a
boats.
pretty tight lifestyle too, like right because you when you're with the other crew and you're in small quarters and
Mm-hmm.
it takes a certain amount of you know knowing how to live like that. It's
Yeah,
probably a bit of an
yeah,
adjustment.
for sure. Yeah, you don't have much personal space. You have to share a lot, and you don't carry much with you, so you got to live kind of minimally. But it's all it's just part of the traveling, and it was really the ideal time to go when I didn't care about any of that stuff.
Yeah, I know there's like a reality show about
Hmm.
life on a yacht or something like that.
Below deck, yeah,
Is that what it is? Are you
yeah,
familiar with it?
yeah. Everybody asked me if that's what it was like, and it is pretty accurate,
Oh,
pretty
really?
close to reality. Yeah,
I've only seen it. And I confess, I only saw it in the background. I swear. But I no, but it's funny. I know that show, and I was like, oh, that was
yeah,
kind of like my first point of reference at the moment because I was like, I have no other point of reference to know what it would be like working on a yacht.
yeah, yeah. Well, now you'll have to watch it and
Yeah.
understand that it. A lot of those things do happen. So,
Wow. And so,
mhm.
how long did you do that for?
Almost a year.
Okay, and you're like, that's enough.
Gosh, I probably would have stayed on longer, but my brother was getting married here in Marin County, and I felt like maybe I needed to come back and get back into reality and find an apartment and a job and
Yeah. Does
hang
it
out with my.
does it feel
Yeah,
like when you're on the yacht like that? Does it feel like you really aren't engaging in reality in some ways?
yeah. It does feel like you're kind of on a perpetual vacation. At least it did for me. But yeah, you go on these. We sailed across the Atlantic, and that took about 2 weeks, and because there wasn't that much wind, so we were going kind of slow. But um, just the feeling of being away from land for that long, and you kind of get into this other zone, and you really notice things about the sky or the stars or clouds forming far away. You just kind
Hmm.
of get into a more dreamlike state, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, I went on a cruise for the first time ever. It was just like 2 months ago on one of those
Hmm.
big cruise ships, and I was surprised how I didn't couldn't even tell that we were moving really.
Yeah,
But I imagined it'd be much different on a yacht or
yeah,
a sailboat for that matter. You'd have to. Did it take some getting used to? Because I just know that even on that cruise ship, which was
yeah.
strange, which we would take off, and I didn't even know we had taken off because I didn't feel any movement. But when I got home,
Right.
I
Uh
could
huh.
still feel like the earth moving.
Yeah, yeah. You kind of feel like land sickness almost when you get onto land and you're still moving.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
did you find? Do you remember if you found it hard to adjust went to the whole yacht sailboat thing because of the movement?
You mean being on the yacht or coming off of it?
No, being on it.
Oh, yeah, I think definitely I had to learn certain things about being on a yacht where basically, you don't want to get yourself feeling sick at all because then it's very hard to feel unsick. So
Yeah.
you have to be careful about like strong smells, or eating something that might give you a stomach ache or not getting too hot. There's just a lot of things that
Mm-hmm.
you kind of keep it very low key, so you are very even.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making
No,
sense.
no, yeah, no, it makes total sense. Basically, you're saying you got to be sensitive to a lot of stuff so that you don't kind of cross that
Mhm.
threshold into just being terribly ill.
Exactly. There was a guy that came on because sometimes we'd have extra people come on board for certain trips, and a guy came on and he started eating chocolate M&Ms and drinking Diet Cokes. And I just remember looking at him like, you are going to get sick. That's just going to make you feel sick.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he got really seasick. And, when you're on a delivery going from one place to the next, you don't stop. So you just have to deal with your seasickness any way you can. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So you'd mentioned you had come back for your brother's wedding. How many
Hmm.
how many siblings do you have?
I have a brother and a sister, and then I have some stepsister, two stepbrothers.
Okay.
So yeah, we have a large blended family.
Okay. And O'Shea is
Hmm.
Irish?
Sure is, yeah.
Yeah.
Good pronunciation too.
I'm quarter Irish,
Oh,
I'd say.
okay, cool,
But yeah,
cool,
no, I've big Irish component side to the family. So
nice.
well, that's cool. So
Yeah.
you came back and you got to normal life, back to
Hmm.
reality. And
Yep.
how did you or at what point did you start going down the art path in terms of that normal life?
Yeah. So I mean, once I came back, I really looked for a job that was art related, and it was hard because I had nothing to get started with since I had taken so much time off. But I started working at a greeting card company, and that was somewhat brief. And then I actually got a job at a multimedia company that made video games.
Ah.
And this was early. I mean, this was 1990 something,
Mm-hmm.
93, I think. And it was a really fun job though because it was right before .com stuff, and people were starting to really get into like digital art and having it be made into video games.
What were you doing for them exactly?
I was doing some interface design, then I also was doing texture mapping, which is like creating artwork that goes on 3D models.
Mm-hmm.
So we were working on like a video game for Disney called Aladdin, based on the movie. And so I was just painting like Adobe walls and, trying to make them as realistic as possible for the video game.
Wow, how cool!
Yeah, it
Did
was really cool.
I'm guessing that game got made. Did you ever see it after the fact or play it or anything?
I don't think so. I don't actually know how far it even got into production. There were definitely some projects we worked on that never came to fruition, but and it's so long ago now, I don't remember which ones. But I just really liked the idea of texture mapping. Being able to paint and then see it three dimensionally
Yeah.
in like a virtual world.
So when you're doing that sort of painting, was that all sort of in the box on the computer, or were you
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. So it's early Photoshop work, and
Yeah. Did
but it wasn't very graphic design oriented again. So I wasn't like laying the groundwork for any kind of graphic design work at that point.
but did you from doing that? Did you learn skills that I would imagine have just
Mm-hmm.
been sort of built upon to create the kind of stuff they do nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I probably could have kept going in that direction, but I felt like there's very few women working in that industry, in the game developing industry. So
Mm-hmm.
I was feeling a little isolated, I guess. And I ended up working at a company called women.com. And then I really kind of focused more on interface design.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just a whole different direction, I guess you'd say. And I didn't end up pursuing it much longer after that.
How many years were you into that for?
At the multimedia company, I was there for about 7 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the .com company about 2 years until I took maternity leave.
Oh, okay. And that's when the kids came into the picture.
Yeah.
And so, how far apart are your boys?
Just 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, was that like a concerted, like, where I guess pre-thought that you were going to stop um,
Yeah.
working and just be mom?
Pretty much. Yeah. I thought I wanted to do it for a few years and then I would get back into the industry. But it didn't end up going quite that way. So,
Mm-hmm.
because everything had changed so rapidly, while I had taken maternity leave and was raising kids, by the time I was ready to get back into working, a lot of this, I still had the Photoshop skills and Illustrator skills, but it wasn't as easy to just jump back into either freelancing or finding full time work.
Is that because the technology had advanced so quickly?
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, everything I'd done prior was just, it didn't apply in terms of showing in my portfolio.
Hmm.
So it was like starting over pretty much from scratch.
Wow. And so, how did you start over? Did you have to educate
Yep.
yourself, or did you have to go back to school, or what did you?
Yeah. Well, I started doing some freelance work, doing logo designs and helping people with their websites. But it really didn't take off as much as I wanted it to in terms of getting steady work.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew, and this is really fast forwarding because, the kids were born starting 2000, and it wasn't until 2019 that I was really getting more focused on getting full time work.
Mm.
So,
So we're talking about
um,
an 18-year gap from
yeah.
being
And so
involved in art at all.
yeah, I mean, professionally, yeah. I mean, I was
Mm-hmm.
doing a little bit for myself and for other people, but it wasn't like I could just jump right back into work when I wanted to. So I was just trying to build up my freelance business as a graphic designer. But again, my portfolio had suffered from taking time off, and also the work that I was doing before that really didn't apply. So
Yeah.
um, it wasn't until 2020 that I discovered surface pattern design, and that's really when things started to take off.
Okay. So in that time when you were, raising the kids and
Hmm.
all that let's say 18, 19-year time period,
Hmm.
um, you said you still were creating. Just
Hmm.
was it just to kind of keep yourself sane because you have that artistic side of you,
Yeah,
or was
yeah,
it for something, or did you just do it for yourself, really?
yeah. Really, just for myself, just exploratory stuff, and also I made sure that I was helping with kid projects, and I made some when we lived in Aspen. Made a bunch of stuff for a play, so wherever I could find creative work, I just and it fit into our schedule, then I would do what I could.
Okay. So that's I'm sure very helpful is, at the time you're just looking for outlets wherever it might be, whether it's a kid's school
Hmm.
or
Yeah,
wherever it
exactly.
was.
Yeah.
When you were doing that for yourself, because obviously
Hmm.
if when you're not doing it, because you're following a directive from being hired or anything like that, what sort of stuff were you gravitating towards? Was it drawing? Was it painting? And what kind of stuff was it?
Yeah, watercolor mostly. I'd say drawing, just whatever inspired me, and I mean, drawing and painting has pretty much always been my preference.
Hmm.
But anything that's creative is, if I can get my hands on it, then I would do it. So it just was, my focus was in other places, so it was more of a side thing and not where I was focusing my energy.
Yeah, but I always find it interesting, when an artist is purely doing something just for themselves,
Hmm.
what they gravitate towards in terms of the type of
Yeah.
art that they're doing, and also what the type of things that they're drawing, what's inspiring them, whether it's
Uh huh.
abstract things or florals or
Mm.
landscapes, that kind of thing. Because I think
Yeah.
that's you when you don't have to make any money from it. Um, you're obviously doing something super true to what fulfills you as an artist.
Yeah. Well, I would say right now, actually, I'm doing like little rubber stamps and lino cuts kind of work. And that is really something that I'm just doing for myself. So I see what
Yeah.
you're saying. And I just didn't have the time when I was, full time mom to set aside that kind of process.
So maybe explain that stamp thing, because I think I just saw a reel of you just doing stamps on this piece of paper, and I was like, oh, and it looks, it looked actually very similar because it had some, like I think it was a coral looking thing, and I was like, oh, that
Yeah.
looks very similar to some of your wallpapers. What is that?
Yeah.
What is that exactly?
Yeah, they're just small rubber blocks that I'm taking designs that I've done already mostly, and then I print them out, then I trace them, and then I'm carving them out and stamping them out. And I'm just getting new ideas because I really like the hand drawn cut look to it, and I know that I could take it further by scanning them and turning them into patterns. So right now I'm just having fun with the stamps and the colors and seeing where it can go.
Well, I thought it was neat too because I could be wrong in this, but when I was watching that reel, it
Hmm.
looked like you were pretty much just free forming where those stamps went. I mean, like,
Yeah,
but what was funny is it still looked like a really cool, nice pattern. But you were able to kind of just do that freestyle just by eyeing it and
yeah,
kind of seeing where it would go.
yeah. It's a good exercise for figuring out space, and it's always about spacing with the pattern. So
Yeah, where things
um,
don't go.
yeah, exactly, and not having too much space, or sometimes it's intentionally left a lot of space, but that was fun to just do something really quick, and I knew that it wasn't for anything. It's just for me to have fun with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if you take that past I guess the fun and the passion of it, what is the utility of that? Is that you like you said? Is it scanning it and then turning it into like a repeating pattern for fabric or wallpaper, or
Hmm.
is that where you go with it?
Yeah, probably. I mean, right now the motifs are fairly simple because I'm still getting the handle on carving them, and um, but it's just helping to drive some ideas in terms of maybe what my next collection might be and what motifs I want to use. So
Yeah,
it's really just me testing things out.
which
But yes,
I think is
yeah,
such a cool process to see. So you said carving. Are you making the stamps yourself?
yeah, yeah.
How do
So
you
you
how do you do that?
just draw on, you have a design, say you have a bird, and then you trace the bird, then you flip that tracing paper over, put it on the rubber stamp, and then you kind of rub it so it transfers to the rubber stamp. And then you get some carving tools. So I just ordered some really cool little set online, and you just carve out that shape, and everywhere that you don't carve will get printed. So
Hmm.
like those shapes that you saw, those were like little coral pieces, little, yeah, underwater plants.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be fun to have like an underwater theme.
Yeah. Well, it looked cool, and I'd actually never seen it. I mean, you probably paying much more attention to what's going on in the art world like that, but
Hmm.
I thought it was really cool, and I hadn't seen it before. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Well, I'll do some more, and you can you can follow along.
yeah. No, it's really neat, and it'd actually be kind of cool to uh, follow along on the journey of something like that to actually see
Yeah.
you kind of carving these stamps and then creating this thing on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and then all of a sudden seeing what you do with that and how that becomes
Uh huh.
whatever the final thing is. I think that would be
Exactly.
really neat to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I plan on continuing to share more because I feel like I am in the beginning stages of this carving technique, and I'm not really good at it yet, but I know that if I stay consistent with it, I'll get better, and I'll start seeing the results that I am looking for.
Yeah.
So I am just sharing it in my stories, and it's not really part of my professional stuff yet. But I think it's important. It's definitely going to contribute to it at
Yeah.
some point.
I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
So at some point you're getting back in the swing of things. How do you
Hmm.
get to the point of making, because you said you had only discovered surface pattern design in
Hmm.
2020, is that right?
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah.
like a result of pandemic stuff and you having to
Yeah.
sit at home and learn, or what was, how did that
Yeah.
come about?
Actually, it was because I got an iPad like right before the pandemic, and that was just perfect because I through the stress, like my older son was traveling in Spain and like got almost got stuck there, but we managed to get him back right when they were closing everything off. And so I was just extremely stressed about that. And so having the iPad, I just started drawing like incessantly to sort of help with that anxiety. And then at the same time, I'm just looking at Instagram, and then I start discovering these classes for surface pattern design, and I was like, wait, that sounds really cool. And I love making patterns. Like I had made one once before with a branding project, and so that's really when I took a couple classes on Skillshare, and then I realized this is what I want to do, because it combines illustration and layout and color, just kind of all the best things that I had been sort of working on that I didn't realize kind of came into a package of called surface pattern
Hmm.
design.
Which I guess, I think it's great that it shows, obviously you have an art background and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's really neat that, you know, after the kids are up and gone, and if, for anybody else out there that may have a
Hmm.
similar aptitude in whatever the relative field might be, there's never, you don't stop educating yourself.
Right, exactly.
And clearly as an artist, you had even, more to learn and
Hmm.
more skills that you could develop. And now here you are, making a living out of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just didn't see it coming like that, happening that way. But I'm just really happy that it did, and it makes sense. I also feel like I did have the foundation with working or in those early days in Photoshop and Illustrator, so I had this sort of software knowledge that
Mm-hmm.
I needed for the surface pattern design. So at least I didn't have a huge learning curve in that way. The only learning curves that I've had is just technically how to make a pattern, and then also getting my work out there. So
Did you,
that, yeah.
when you because you had some experience with Photoshop and Illustrator before, and then
Hmm.
now you have it on this new iPad, which I got to say that it seems to me just those tablets have been the best thing for the art world in terms of just, I mean, I've just seen an explosion of people using it
Yeah.
for such things like this. Did you find that you had a whole heap to learn in terms of like getting yourself up to speed?
No, I'd say not. The foundational stuff is still there. They just enhance it, make things better.
Mm-hmm.
I did keep up with it, even though I was focused on having kids. I did pay attention to having Illustrator and Photoshop still as part of my tool box. But, and then with the addition of Procreate, I would say that's what I work with primarily on the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I need to, I bring it over to the computer for Photoshop and Illustrator.
Yeah. So after you get into learning surface pattern design, and
Hmm.
then like at what point do you go, all right, I'm going to start, what's
Pitching.
what's the first thing you do, or what's the first
Um,
design that you go, okay, I'm going to take this and, or take this group of designs and do something with them?
yeah. Gosh, I'm not really sure which ones were the first, but I would say that I reached out to Milton and King I reached out to them. So that collection of patterns might have been around my first that I felt were strong enough to to be licensed.
Okay. Well, that's
So
cool.
yeah, I would say that licensing deal was probably one of my first big ones, for sure.
Yeah.
The first big one. So that was super exciting. But yeah, things sort of just started falling into place pretty quickly around that. So it's hard to say like when I decided, oh, this one's because once you do a pattern, you go, this is cool, and then you put it out there. And either it really takes off or it goes nowhere. So
Hmm.
there's plenty of both, really.
Yeah. Well, I'd love
Yeah.
to dive into some of these designs now that we've touched on that.
Hmm.
So when you reached out to Milton and King, did you like put together a portfolio, or what did you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, I think I probably put together a PDF, grouping of the designs, and to my surprise, they picked every one. I thought they were just gonna say, "Oh, we'll just take this one, this one, this one," but they said, "Yeah, we'll take all of them."
How many was
So
that? What were there, 12 or 15 or
yeah, I
something?
think there's 12. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so okay. I was actually wondering,
Hmm.
because I hadn't spoken to Bryce or anybody about it, so I was just
Yeah.
wondering if there were any that got left off. But
No.
there are, you know, definitely a bunch of very cool designs. There's some that stick out for me that are my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but one thing, kind of overall, I would say about a lot of these designs, and I don't know if this was just indicative of where you were at the time because you were fairly new into surface pattern or what, but
Yeah.
um, after going on your site, I'm seeing a lot more variations in colors. But this collection, I've just noticed that all the designs are very, I don't want to say muted because they're not muted, but they're one, two, three main colors, like
Uh-huh.
max. And so it makes it so that it's very easy on the eyes for someone who maybe doesn't want, an explosion of color in their face kind of thing.
Hmm.
So
Right.
people that like neutral or just maybe sort of a bit understated in the
Hmm.
design, color wise,
Yeah.
um, I would say that this there's like a theme um, through these designs in that they're all sort of like that. There's a couple with a few exceptions in certain colorways.
Yeah.
Um, but was that intentional? Was that the result of where you were at the time, or that was just the way this collection came together?
I think I was thinking more in terms of the colorways. I was thinking more about what I would want in my home, and I just know that there's a lot going on, in a home anyway.
Hmm.
That I want the design to be subtle and livable, and not something that competes with, say your couch fabric or your pillows, or I want it something that you can live with, and so they are muted and they are more neutral for that reason. But
Okay.
yeah, I would say that my designs in general aren't necessarily reflective of that same thought process.
Yeah, because that's what I noticed when I went on your site. I was seeing all
Yeah.
sorts of different
Yeah.
textures and colors and things. I was like, oh, this is different. I thought maybe I'd see all the kind of same style, but that
Yeah.
was
No.
obviously thought out for wallpaper, your first
Exactly.
initial collection. Well, that yeah, and it makes total sense because I can see these designs as being something that is easier to live with, maybe has more staying power over time
Right.
because it's not so in your face.
Right.
Um, which kind of brings me to, I think, two of my favorite in this collection. There's the fox one
Oh. Uh huh.
and the shoal one. And I think it's
Nice.
because at a distance, you can't really tell what it is. Like it can just
Hmm.
sort of look like beautiful visual texture. And then
Hmm.
I love designs where you get closer and you go like, oh, that's a school of
Yeah.
fish, or, oh,
Yeah.
those are foxes. And,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
And,
so
and stones.
I love those two designs.
Thanks.
Do you have any favorites in this collection that stand out to you that you appreciate
Um,
more than others?
I really like the kelp design.
The Neptune's necklace one.
Yes, Neptune necklace. Yeah,
Did you come up with the name for that?
I did just because I learned that that's what those are. those are called.
Oh, I had
So
no idea.
yeah, that's the name. Technically, I guess the name of that type of kelp.
That is, I want to say that that might be the most popular of the group. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
really? Huh.
Well, I don't know for sure, but I just know that
Yeah.
when I was I was in the sampling office at Milton and King,
Hmm.
just kind of poking around, and I was seeing particularly that design going out a lot.
Oh, cool.
Um, I don't know if that's translated into ultimate wallpaper sales or not, but
Yeah.
I did notice that that one was kind of going out the door a lot. I think it's because it has just beautiful curves, and in terms of the designs, it seems to me to be maybe the most complex because there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah. 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 And we actually had to adjust it. I sent it to Milton and King, and then one of their designers got back to me and said, "Could you just change this one little part because it looks like it's shooting off in one direction, just too strong, too strong of a direction, I guess." So I kind of altered the curve of it, and that just made, all the difference. So it
Hmm.
was a really good suggestion. And I feel like that design has a really nice flow to it. It's not, it's not like too boxy, or you're not just immediately seeing the repeat pattern.
Yeah. No, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful one. I actually had that one written down as well because that yeah that was I feel like it's unique in that group of designs
Yeah.
because of the curvature of the design and everything.
Thanks.
Um, did you find it? I find it interesting that they came back and asked you to adjust that. Was that something that
Hmm.
was easy to adjust for you?
Yeah. It's as long as I create the design in many layers, I can usually go back and alter something, tweak something.
Hmm.
So I really try to keep that in mind when I'm designing now, because I've made that mistake in the past.
Okay. And so
Where
were you
it's
surprised to get that feedback? And were you fine to just take it on and be like, oh yeah, no problem?
Yeah, no, I mean I'm totally used to feedback from clients in general, so it was totally a good suggestion, and I am always open to people's refinements, and they actually end up being better than they were before. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
The other two that sort of stand out to me that are some of my favorites are the deep sea and the manta ray. And
Hmm.
I did obviously notice very much an ocean theme to a
Yeah.
lot of these papers. Are
Hmm.
you? Is that something that? Yeah, are you into? I mean, obviously, I know that you. I now know that you were on a sailboat and a yacht. But like, for
Uh-huh.
example, there's the one with the scuba diver and stuff. Do
Yeah.
you do much stuff like ocean sports or anything like that?
I don't. I'm not a scuba diver. I just am drawn to water and watery colors, and it just comes pretty naturally. I think that theme.
Hmm.
I did a whole set as well for a towel company, so I just really enjoyed doing ocean theme type artwork. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's all I do. That's just happened to be one branch of a collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do generally do more florals than
Yeah. Well, and there's plenty of that in the collection as well.
yeah,
Petals and
yeah,
all sorts of, and they're all sort of subtle and small patterns, repeats,
hmm,
and yeah, very easy on the eyes in
yeah,
terms of color. But I do love, like I said, I always love when you find bits and pieces when you kind of take a closer look, and even those the deep sea and the manta ray one, when you
yeah,
kind of look closer and you see the seahorses and
yeah. You discover
the
new things you might not have seen before.
yeah the turtles and all that kind of stuff, and that
Yeah,
ocean themed stuff is really so soothing. It
yeah,
does make for a great interior choice, I think, personally.
yeah, yeah. The scuba diver pattern has been fairly popular with other applications as well. So there's certain designs that sort of carry on and through other products, and they're more long lasting than some designs. And
Hmm.
so the scuba diver has definitely been one of those. And
Yeah, I did see that. on some of the designs, you can see where you've repurposed and brought it into other patterns that you have, whether it's fabric or I just saw one of the dragonfly that you have in the wallpaper, and now it's a tattoo or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool,
Yeah.
cool to
Yeah, I
see.
have a few designs with they're actually different dragonflies, but yeah, dragonfly's definitely been a theme throughout a lot of my work so far.
I don't remember what it said, but it was something about um, change or change. What was the
Yeah. Oh, with the tattoo.
yeah
Yeah, it symbolizes transformation, I think, and
transformation? Okay,
yeah. Yeah, they're pretty magical, those dragonflies.
yeah.
It's funny because I had the dragonfly. I have a dragonfly art print, that's surrounded by botanical florals, and it's kind of in a circular design. And I was showing it at a local art, sort of festival thing where I had a booth,
Hmm.
and someone came up and said, "We don't have dragonflies in Fairfax." It sort of made a negative commentary about it, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I just was like, "But we do." And but anyway, she seemed to want to have an argument about it, and then I told my friends about it, and so now everybody sends me photos of their dragonflies, saying, "See, we have dragonflies in Fairfax." So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was funny. Oh, because it had the word Fairfax underneath too, so I was sort of like showing dragonflies and Fairfax together,
Uh huh.
and she didn't agree with that.
Huh. The,
Huh.
the 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 things people need to get off their chest.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, well, it's just a pretty,
It's just a
you know,
dragonfly.
thing that I like to draw, so
Yeah.
it's not that
It's
meaningful.
it's not only that, it's not only the things that people need to get off their chest, but also the fact that like they're absolutely wrong and they need to get it off their
Yeah.
chest.
Yeah. And then you go, okay, see you later. And
Yeah. How
you have to
funny.
let it go too.
Yeah, true. Um do you still end up doing, like booths and stuff at arts and crafts festivals and things like that?
Well, I did our local town has a festival every year in the summer, and it's really fun. And I did it last year because I did their poster, and it happened to win the poster contest, and they gave me a free booth.
Oh, cool.
And and that was so much fun. And I really appreciate what people go through to set up a booth and have their work and have people come in and see it and have people make positive and negative comments. And so I'm really glad that I've done it, but I don't know that I have the energy to do it on a regular basis.
Hmm.
It's just, it really is a good way of sort of getting out into the world, because a lot of times we just sit in front of our, you know, devices and figure out what we're designing, but we don't interact with people and see their actual reactions to it. So I do plan on doing a few more, but it's probably not something I could do regularly.
It actually just struck me when you said that because, like the arts in general, you have like music, for example, or even someone who's like a stand-up comedian, and the way that they test out whether something is good or not is they go out and see the reaction of the audience, and they can say,
Yeah,
"Oh, this song's really hitting," or "This bit's really,
yeah,
striking a chord with the audience and stuff." And so I didn't think about it like that, but in the same way that people can write their skits or create their music in the privacy of their own little studio or
yeah,
whatever it is. And so there must be something really cool about it's almost like your version of playing live, where
hmm,
you create the art, and then but if you want to actually see how it strikes people in the moment, in a
right,
real in a real live moment, is going
yeah,
to doing those fairs could be a way to
yeah,
do that.
yeah.
Huh.
And it's totally exhausting, especially for someone who's introverted. I know that introverts, we tend to get zapped by being around a lot of people.
Yeah, it
Uh,
drains your energy.
it drains your energy, but you get through it, and then afterwards you think about how fun it was, and you want to do it again, but then you get really exhausted.
Yeah.
So it's back and forth. But yeah, it is interfacing with people, and like you said, like in a live sort of situation where you get feedback.
Yeah. How cool! I didn't think about that before.
Hmm.
So what's on the agenda for you? What's coming up next? What's happening now, or what are you working on?
Yeah. Well, luckily, I've just finished with a company that I contract for, seasonally. So I just finished working for them for spring 2024, and they make women's accessories and home decor.
Mm-hmm.
Or not home decor, just women's accessories and bags and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so now I've got a little bit of free time. It's not really free time because already have some projects lined up, but part of that is actually finishing a new collection for Milton and King.
Ooh, I didn't know you
So
were doing that, so I'm excited.
yeah, yeah, I'll have a whole new grouping that I'll send to them and hopefully get that squared away before I need to start working again. So,
Any hints as to what to expect from it?
well, it won't be ocean themed,
Okay.
and it'll be just more, probably a lot more florals and maybe inspired by some of the hand carving stamping stuff that I'm doing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Could change, so don't hold me to it.
Yeah. Do you already have some designs completed for it, or is that something you're about to dive into?
No, I definitely have some already completed because I did run it by them and they liked already what I had. So now I just since had to take a little break from it, I'm going to go back and rework some of them, but also just finalize some of the ones that they've already seen.
Do you find that it helps to take a break to get fresh eyes on something?
Oh, definitely. You always have to take breaks, get away from it, and then come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I did see a couple of designs when I was scrolling through your Instagram. I don't know if these are a part of it because I think they were pretty old, but there were two designs that I actually really loved.
Yeah.
There was one with mushrooms.
Okay.
And I think your caption was like mushrooms are magical or something. Do you
Okay.
know which one I'm talking about? It was like a deep blue, and it had looked like mushrooms sort of sprouting out of the ground kind of thing. And I don't know. I thought it was
Okay.
a really cool design. And
Okay.
then there was another one that was like reindeer facing each other.
Yeah. Uh huh.
Both of those I thought
Yep.
were
Those could be included.
those were really really cool. I thought those were really neat.
Neat. Yeah. Those are more, well, the reindeer I would say is more um, holiday oriented,
Oh, for sure.
perhaps. Yeah. So I don't really know if they carry a holiday theme wallpaper, um, but I'll revisit
You
those
know, there's
and see
always
if,
room for somebody.
yeah, that's true.
There's always, every once in a while. I know Milton and King will kind of go through and you think, oh, should we, because there's a lot of designs on the website, and you go, oh, should we pare this
Yeah.
down? Should we
Yeah.
get rid of some of these designs? And then every time we start thinking that we're going to do that, all of a sudden there's some order that comes through for some random design that you didn't think was going to see the light of day again. And you just go, you know
Yeah.
what? There's somebody has a taste for something, and
That's true.
they'll get drawn to it or they'll find it. And so it's always a reason to be like, well, I guess it's not really hurting anything being on the website. It just seems like sometimes there's so much to go through.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you never know. So
Yeah.
people love Christmas, and you never know that design may really work. Because I didn't. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, I could see the Christmas element to it, but it's also. I mean, I could see it also just working kind of from a love of forest life and
I see.
nature
And
working
so
as well.
it's the ones where they're facing each other.
Yeah, because you did it and then you simplified it. You had one that
Okay.
where was more color, and then like a few posts later, you said, "Oh, I'm simplifying this one," and it was more
Okay.
just it was the same design, but it was just I guess
Hmm.
less colorful or something. But
Yeah.
anyway,
So you like the animal motifs. Would say you're more drawn to them.
yeah, it must be.
Hmm.
I guess that's right. I'm
Yeah.
clearly they're standing out for me for some reason.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But very cool. Well, I've taken up an hour of your time, and I really appreciate you talking with me today and
Sure.
going
I really enjoyed
over
it.
your story and all that. And I look forward to seeing what's coming out. I'm really excited about it. Is it going to be? Do you feel like it's going to be the same sort of um, in terms of color and being the more subtle idea, or
Probably not.
oh, so you're going to go another direction?
Yeah, I always like to change things up. So it's sometimes that works, but people are always looking for their signature style, and I'm not even sure I know what mine is, but I do like to change things up. So maybe that hampers me finding my signature style too.
Yeah, I think it's always an interesting um, it's always an interesting thing. Um,
It's a
I,
dilemma.
well, I have a little bit of a music background, and I always know that there's the temptation first. Maybe for some people, comes more naturally,
Uh-huh.
where they say, "Oh, that's your brand, that's your niche, that's kind of your style." And for
Right.
some people, it may just come naturally because that's all. Maybe that's all that inspires them. That's all they do, and it sort of ends up being more natural.
Hmm.
Whereas I think it's much more difficult if you like different things,
Yes.
and you want to be diverse. And I know there's some artists that the moment they do something, it almost feels like that's a bit of a prison, and they go, "I don't just do that; I can also do this."
Right.
And
Or I don't want to. I wanted to try something else.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
think that's just as artistically valid, maybe even more so, because you're not allowing yourself to be. You're allowing inspiration to take you wherever it leads you, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, if you're creating work through inspiration, it's kind of hard not to constantly change because your inspiration changes.
Right. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Katie. I really appreciate your time today, and
Sure.
hopefully we'll talk again soon. And I'm looking forward to this new collection.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
All right. You have a lovely week.
Okay. You too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.